Well, here we have a restoration of a $5 King's Day flea market find. And yes, it was very ugly. Lots of work on this. It's in terrible shape. Not only is it in terrible shape, but it's really dirty. All the ropes are tangled up and the paint is flaking off. But, I got it for €5, which is about $5.80. So you think, well, I'll give it a try. And as you can see here, I'm taking off all the metalware. Later I'll take off the superstructure. I'll save all of that and put it all back on. I tried to keep it as original as I could. Here we go with some sanding. Really necessary. And you can see that there's no deck, and I will go ahead and I will make a deck for this thing because I just felt like it really needed it. Now, sanding like this around those superstructure pieces is a real pain, so those eventually had to come off. And what they've done is they've coated this thing to make it look nice and smooth, and I brought it back down to where you could actually see the wood underneath, and they had layered it so it almost looked like wooden planks. And I thought that looked really nice, so I left it like that. But getting rid of all this sort of plaster-like material took quite some time. And here is the start of the deck. I have these coffee stirrers. I started putting them together and sort of arranging them, and then of course you need some more. I've got a few thousand of these things from an old project. And of course they don't have flat ends, they have curved ends, so I have to clip off all the ends and glue them down and weigh them down, and it's a straightforward process. Now once you get it like this, you turn it over, and this is a lovely saw. This is a Japanese saw, very well known for cutting very straight and very accurately. So of course we've got to tape this thing off. We're gonna paint it, and this isn't paint. This is actually for the wood. You can kind of see that effect I was talking about there. That kind of looks like planking. But anyway, put this kind of stain on there instead of paint. And here, of course, as hard as you try to tape these things off, sometimes it just doesn't work out. So there you see it's got the deck on it, and I've got to find the holes that were in there. This is the sort of back hole where whoever's sailing the ship would kind of put their feet and kind of sit around that hole there. Luckily, I had marked off where it was. Unfortunately, I didn't do that for the mast, so that was much harder to find. And here, those superstructure elements, I just reused what was there, except for one, which I had to actually rebuild. It was in just too bad a shape. But, sand it down, pull it apart, sand it down, put some wood glue back on it, and and it's good as new. This the bow here was also, it just had cracked off or something had happened. Anyway, just a little bit of wood putty here, and I got it in one, and it dried up nicely. And if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't really see it. Here's some of the wood that I was using to make some of the superstructure again. I used the same dimensions. That large piece there, that in the middle, that's the one I built or rebuilt. You got to glue them down. And putting on some boat lacquer here. And I gave all the superstructure little things there just one coat of this boat lacquer, but I gave the deck 3 or 4 coats. And I also let this run a little while because if you stop it here, you don't sort of have that nice feeling of getting all the way to the end. So we'll wait until I get all the way to the end here. Lots of sped up video here. I had hours and hours of video. Really cut it back and sped it up, as you can see. This was the most fiddly thing. This was the railings on the side, the brass railings, and there's a little pin, and that goes into a little holder. You can see I'm separating them here, and I'll drill little holes for the holders, and then go back and put the little pins in, and then put that brass wire actually in there. And it's not hard work, but it's fiddly. And for some reason, I remember there's 17 on one side and 17 on the other. Anyway, to get an idea of where you actually want it, you just take the brass wire and tape it down, and then make 17 little marks on there. Drill them in. And there they go. They go right in. They fit nicely. Not too tight, not too loose. I'll put those little eyelets in there and then start to... This was a bad idea, cleaning this thing, trying to clean it in my hand. You should have just put it flat on the down. The second one I did that, but put it flat on a table and polish it up. There you go. Now you got one side done. Just making that hole a little bit bigger for the mast, and here's the mast, and that's actually bright work there. That's actually brass on there that had to be shined up. Really bad shape, really dirty. Here's my wife making me new sails. She offered, thank goodness. So the ugly yellow faded dirty sails were replaced by these nice light beige sails. And then we had to put some eyelets in there, some brass eyelets, and it looked really nice. So here we are. The hull of the ship is basically done. There I am, losing my courage and trying to get these things in the right place, and we're not sailors, so we don't really know, so we just kind of had to eyeball it. And then we got to put all the metal work back on. So that we have something to attach the sails to. And it was good to have someone else to help me work on that, they are very fiddly, and tying the things at one end and then it comes loose at the other end. And here I am, this mainsail. That was one thing we didn't have that when I bought it. The mainsail was missing. I didn't know that until I opened it. And I put some nice heavy-duty rope here, as you can see, around that. I thought it looked nice. Although my wife tried to convince me that that is just not how you do a sailboat sail on there, but I thought it looked nice. And there were plenty of other inaccuracies on this boat. So just wrapping the string actually around these, and then getting it tight, and then putting a drop of wood glue on there to make sure it stays down, and clamping it for a few minutes, and it should be very strong. Now I'm just going around to all the knots that we tied for all the sails, cutting off excess string, putting a little drop of glue on the knots here and there. Just to make sure they're strong. That right there, I should have done a better job. That is a little light. It's a little brass light from another ship that was done by my father-in-law, who passed away nearly 30 years ago. And I inherited some of his tools and some of his kit, and I still had that from many decades ago, 3 decades ago, and put that on there in his honor on the top of the mast, where it probably isn't supposed to go, but anyway, that was the best place. So here's a little bit more of that bright work. These are winches, and I just space them sort of evenly across the deck. And put some of these other metal, what you would call those things when you just put ropes around and tie ropes around. There it is, and it's looking so much better. It's feeling so much better about itself. It's got a new deck. It's got some new superstructure. All the bright work is shined up. It's got new sails. Got a new color scheme to it as well. And if you want to know where we began, we began with this horrifying problem. And here's where we've ended. A really big difference. And quite a bit of work, but it was pretty straightforward, and it was okay to do, even if you're not a real model shipbuilder. So there it is on the mantle, looking nice, looking proud of itself. And thanks so much for watching. Till next time.